You ever have one of those nights where you're just minding your own business, not bothering a soul, and suddenly it feels like the universe decides to dump a truckload of crazy right on your doorstep? Yeah, that was me, sitting by my campfire watching the flames flicker out across my lake. My lake, mind you, just soaking in the peace that only comes when you're surrounded by trees, water, and the kind of silence you can only find after the sun sets in the country. And then, just like that, peace was over. Out of the darkness comes this woman, let's call her Mrs. Patterson, screaming across the fire at me, "You're destroying community property! Community property!" Now you gotta laugh, right? Because I'm sitting there thinking, lady, what community? This is my land, my water, my lake, bought and paid for title. Clear all the way back to 1952 when my grandfather first drove his old Ford out here with a surveyor's compass and a head full of big dreams. But she just stood there, absolutely convinced she was right, phone already in hand, voice rising higher with every word. Then wouldn't you know it, sirens. Flashing lights bouncing through the pine trees. A citation that made about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine. One minute it's a quiet summer evening, just me and the crickets and the fire. The next I'm the main character in the craziest neighbor dispute you've ever heard. You think your neighbors are bad? Just wait. This one takes the cake. And if you've ever had to fight for your own property rights, trust me, you'll feel this one in your bones. So I'm sitting there, fire crackling the old brass compass my grandfather used. Yeah, I still carry it warm in my palm, letting the smoke roll across the water, just soaking in that perfect blend of cedar and lake air that reminds you why you keep coming back to a place like this. Suddenly, Mrs. Patterson's at it again. This time she's calling the police voice, all scripted like she's reading for a play about smoke concerns. 15 minutes later, here comes Officer Williams stepping out of the cruiser flashlight, cutting through the dark. "Sir, we've received complaints about HOA fire violations." He's polite, but I can see he's tired. I get up slow, slip my deed papers out, because I've learned you don't live in the country without knowing your paperwork backward and forward. "Officer," I say, calm as I can, "this lake isn't in any HOA. My family's owned it since before there was a road out here, let alone a homeowners association." But you ever get that feeling in your gut like the world's not playing by the same rules as you? Well, somebody had called the cops 30 minutes before Mrs. Patterson even dialed. Suddenly, I'm not just playing checkers. I'm playing chess against someone who already knows my next 3 moves. And the smoke blending with that cool mountain air makes everything sharper, more real. Reminds me why I moved back after 20 years as a state hydrologist. I'd spent my life studying water, reading rivers, understanding the hidden stories below the ground, so when I spotted industrial-grade water testing equipment hidden in the brush earlier that day, I knew this wasn't just some busybody with a rule book. This was someone who knew what they were looking for. Officer Williams fiddles with his radio dispatch, crackling through, "Third water-related dispute in this area this month." He lowers the radio, glances over my shoulder, eyes drifting toward the far shore where Sunset Hills HOA's lights burn late into the night. "Something's off here," he mutters more to himself than to me. He's right. I can feel it. Community water resources. My brain is running a mile a minute. "Officer, this is private property. Private water rights." I can hear my own voice steady, but underneath the wheels are spinning. Why is every complaint tonight about water? Not noise, not fire, but water. Across the lake, those million-dollar homes line the shore, their lawns manicured within an inch of their lives. And in the biggest one, a silhouette is pacing in the office phone pressed to their ear, gesturing wildly. That's Donna Carter, HOA president, queen of the Sunset Hills, and apparently the woman with her eyes on my lake. Officer Williams tries to end it nice and neat. "Mr. Gibson, I'll file this as a property boundary consultation instead of a violation. But you should contact Donna Carter. Could save everyone some trouble." Then he hands me a copy of the incident report and disappears into the night, leaving behind only the crunch of gravel and a bad feeling in my chest. An hour later, still not even midnight, a certified envelope arrives signed by Donna Carter herself, demanding a written response within 5 business days. I read the citation under the porch light. The language is surgical. Immediate cessation of all groundwater disturbance activities. What I lit a campfire. I didn't run a pipeline. But someone with a legal background had drafted this, someone who knew the right words to use if you wanted to scare a judge or an old rancher. And here's the thing, my hydrology training kicks in. I can see the pattern. This isn't about fire codes or property boundaries. This is the opening move in a chess match for my water rights. They want my lake, and they've got resources I haven't even seen yet. I walk to the lake's edge, compass in hand, the water lapping the shore in the same rhythm I remember from when I was a kid, when my grandfather still walked these banks with me, telling stories about damming the old creek, excavating the basin, opening up the spring outflow that kept the water clear all year long. He always called it special water, never really explained why. Now, 30 years after he's gone, it seems like someone else finally figured it out. Behind me, the campfire pops and sends sparks rising to the sky. The night's gone quiet, like even the crickets are waiting to see what happens next. I pull out my phone to look up Donna Carter, see what I'm up against, and my flashlight catches something new. Fresh metal stakes, survey grade, not the kind you buy at the garden store. They weren't there yesterday. Someone walked my lines while I was at the courthouse filing water paperwork. That's when it really sinks in. This isn't just neighbor drama. This is war. But here's where they screwed up. They're picking a fight with a retired hydrologist who knows more about this lake, this land, and this water than most folks ever will. I tuck the citation into my pocket and head back to the fire, the plan already starting to form in my mind. This is just the first round, and I'm not backing down. I didn't sleep much that night, just sat by the fire, watching it burn down to embers, feeling the cool lake air settle in, trying to puzzle out every angle of this fight before dawn broke. I kept my grandfather's old compass in my hand, the brass warming to my touch, like he was still there with me, reminding me to stand my ground. You know, sometimes you get the feeling the past is breathing down your neck, not in a spooky way, but like it's rooting for you. That was me right then. Nervous but stubborn, and more than a little ticked off. Next morning, before I even finish my first cup of coffee, a certified letter lands on my porch. Its thick, official Sunset Hills Community Association's logo stamped big across the top. $5,000 in fines plus immediate cessation of all lakefront activities. I blink, read it again. Hydrologist's habit. I guess always double-check the numbers, the language, the hidden meanings. This wasn't some copy-paste HOA template either. Somebody with real legal chops had put this together, each phrase chosen like a scalpel, unauthorized modification of community water table systems, immediate compliance, required escalation to legal action pending. Like they wanted to scare me into selling out fast. But here's what made me laugh. My lakes, spring-fed, drawn from a private aquifer, not a drop touches any so-called community system. The more I read, the more I could tell whoever wrote this wanted to sound like an expert, but their understanding of water science was about a mile wide and an inch deep. By 8 a.m., I'm on the phone dialing the Sunset Hills office. 4 transfers later, I finally get Donna Carter's assistant, a voice as robotic as a customer service bot, telling me Mrs. Carter is in meetings all morning. Our position is clearly stated in the correspondence. I keep my voice even, but I'm not in the mood for games. Your position is scientifically impossible, I shoot back. I'm sending you my deed, water rights certificate, geological survey, all of it. Your claims are baseless. There's a long pause, some shuffle of papers, then the assistant comes back, voice even colder. Mrs. Carter says, documentation disputes require legal resolution. We're prepared for extended litigation if necessary. And just like that click, the call ends. Let me tell you, extended litigation is corporate speak, for we've got more money than you. But what they didn't know, what nobody on that end of the phone understood, was that I'd spent 20 years wrangling lawyers, developers, and regulators at the state level. If they wanted a fight, I was ready. Day 2. I'm out taking my morning water quality readings, just like I've done for years when this big landscaping truck rolls up. The foreman hops out, clipboard in hand, tells me he's here to maintain the community lakefront area. I just stand there, arms crossed, watching his crew start unloading what looks suspiciously like ground-penetrating radar equipment. This is private property. I say not moving an inch. You got no business here. The foreman's got that look, caught between a rock and a hard place. He fumbles with his paperwork, makes a quick phone call, then waves his crew back. They pack up in a hurry, apologizing, but not before I spot one of them snapping photos of my boundary stakes as they drive away. Yeah, routine maintenance, sure. Day 3 things escalate. Now it's a city building inspector on my doorstep. Clipboard measuring tape, claiming anonymous complaints about unpermitted structures. My dock's been standing since the 1960s, grandfathered in under every code on the books. I walk him around, camera rolling on my phone, and it doesn't take long for him to realize I know the regulations better than most contractors. Sir, these structures appear to be properly permitted, he says, refusing to meet my eyes. But I still have to document everything for the complaint file. He's measuring depth readings, water access points, way more than a regular code check. This is all about the water, and we both know it. Next day, insurance investigator. She sits across the street for 20 minutes taking photos, then comes over with questions about groundwater impact and liability for modifications. I've worked with enough insurance folks to spot a fishing expedition. She won't say who filed the complaints, but her questions let me know multiple parties are building a paper trail, setting me up for higher premiums, or maybe even policy cancellation. I play it polite, offer her coffee, keep my answers tight and professional, but I'm taking notes the whole time. That evening, the evidence piles up literally. I find fresh tire tracks circling my entire property, deep ruts pressed into the soft earth near my well. Somebody's done a full perimeter sweep while I was out at the courthouse, and they left behind a small plastic tube at my wellhead, the kind used for water sampling. So I head into my home lab. Yeah, still got the gear. Old habits die hard and test the residue. High-end professional chemical strips. Not something you buy at the hardware store. Somebody's out here testing my water without my permission. That's not HOA overreach anymore. That's industrial surveillance. Back inside, I pull out my grandfather's old property records from 1952, just chasing a hunch. And buried in his handwritten notes, I find it Carter family wanted to retain subsurface mineral and water rights during sale. Refused their demands. Suspect they'll cause trouble someday. Donna Carter, same family name, 70 years later. My grandfather refused to split those rights. Kept everything bundled surface and subsurface. No loopholes. I lay out all the paperwork across my kitchen table, the deed, the surveys, the water rights, every piece of evidence from the last 4 days. The pattern's obvious now. This is a coordinated attack, legal intimidation, bureaucratic hassle, industrial-grade surveillance, all designed to squeeze me out and take control of my water. Phone rings just after sunset. My brother Tom sounding tired. Blake, maybe you should just let them have lake access. Is it really worth the fight? You could sell and walk away. I know he means well, but I shake my head. He doesn't get it. This isn't about convenience. It's about protecting what matters. Some things, once you give them up, you never get them back. That night, I stand by the shore, compass in hand, stars shimmering in the water, the spring-fed system bubbling quietly, just like it always has. Whatever makes this water special enough for the Carters to covet it after all these years, I'm about to find out. And tomorrow, I'm not just going to react, I'm going on offense. Time for some reconnaissance of my own. Dawn finds me unpacking all my old professional survey gear, ground-penetrating radar aquifer probes, the same tools I used on environmental assessments for the state. If they want to play hardball over water, they pick the wrong guy to bluff. My hands are steady, mind-sharp. Years of hydrology work means I know what I'm looking for and how to prove it. First readings from the aquifer almost make me drop the meter. The underground reservoir beneath my lake isn't just deep, it's huge, way bigger than anyone guessed. I'm talking 500 million gallons stored right under my feet, part of a regional network that snakes beneath half the county, feeding wells and streams for miles around. My land sits dead center on the recharge zone, the critical point where surface water filters down, recharging the whole system. Now I finally get it why my grandfather called this special water, why the Carters wanted it so bad. He'd bought not just a lake, but the keystone for the entire region's water supply. No wonder folks were circling like buzzards. I need answers, so I drive down to the county recorder's office. Old Pete Johnson's still there shuffling files like he owns the place. Pete's been at his desk 45 years, knows every deed, every well, every family. When I show him my radar printouts, he nods real slow. Haven't seen survey work this good since your grandfather first brought his papers in. He glances around, voice dropping. But you should know, water company folks have been poking around asking about this property for 2 years now. Not the HOA big money. Corporate interests. He digs through his cabinet and pulls out a thick folder. Donna Carter's name pops up over and over, always connected to boundary clarification requests, always tied to properties with wells, springs, lake frontage. Pete lays out a map, points to 8 families who used to own prime land, now all sold off after a wave of property tax hikes, insurance cancellations, and missing building permits. Every time Donna's HOA played middleman, each time the land wound up in the hands of development companies or faceless LLCs. Then Pete lets me in on the kicker. Aquacorp Industries, a name I hadn't heard before, has been quietly filing for extraction permits all over the region. Their sites line up exactly with properties Donna Carter's HOAs have targeted. The company plans industrial water extraction massive operations that could drain these aquifers in a decade, leave the land dry and worthless. Suddenly, my property isn't just a target, it's ground zero in a multi-million-dollar land and water grab. Climate change, rising demand, corporate greed. This place is a gold mine and I'm the only thing standing in the way. Before I even leave Pete's office, my phone buzzes a text from an unknown number. Saw your equipment this morning, impressive work. Would like to discuss mutual interests. Dr. Rachel Foster, Environmental Sciences. I call her right there in the parking lot, half expecting another corporate spy, but Rachel's with the State Environmental Agency. She's been studying regional aquifers, and her research confirms my worst fears. Aquacorp's model is simple, she tells me. Find isolated aquifers. Use local proxies, HOAs, county officials to manufacture access pump, hard cash out, and move on. When the wells run dry, the value collapses, but by then the company's gone and communities are left with nothing. Her data is chilling extraction on my property's recharge zone, would devastate the whole system in 5 years, leave 50,000 people with dead wells and dust. Donna Carter's power play isn't just about my land, she's threatening the water supply for half the county. By afternoon, I'm knee-deep in technical mapping tracing underground water flows using all the pro-grade gear I've got. Every line on my maps, every number says the same thing. My lake is the most crucial piece of water real estate in the region. Maybe the state. I finally see the whole plan. Donna Carter's strategy is ruthless. Use the HOA to harass me about surface violations, create legal emergencies during a drought. Then hand over emergency access to the corporate backers in exchange for cash. It's all perfectly choreographed, confuse, intimidate, delay, and then cash in while nobody's looking. Just as I'm wrapping up my fieldwork, another car comes down the drive. This time it's Jake Mitchell, a sharp-eyed investigative journalist who's been chasing corporate environmental crimes all across the Southwest. He shows me emails, internal memos, everything he's got from FOIA requests. Aquacorp's been planning to make their move here for 3 years, waiting for the right legal opening. Their playbook's all there: pressure property owners with fake HOA violations, use environmental consultants to study extraction feasibility, then swoop in for the kill once folks are too tired or broke to fight back. Jake's evidence is damning. Donna Carter stands to make a $5 million finder's fee, plus royalties for every gallon pumped. The web of shell companies, subsidiaries, and backroom deals is staggering. For them, this isn't about neighborhoods or lakes or property lines. It's about cash, plain and simple. Let me tell you, realizing you're just a pawn in somebody else's billion-dollar game, yeah, that'll keep you up at night. But I wasn't about to fold, not now, not ever. Next morning, Dr. Foster drives out sets up at my kitchen table with more charts and maps. Her research shows the environmental stakes extraction here would violate the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Act, you name it. She's got case studies, horror stories, Entire towns gutted after aquifers were pumped dry, ecosystems collapsed, farmland gone for good. Most property owners don't understand enough science to fight back, she tells me. But you do. We can build a case nobody can ignore. That's when it clicks. I'm not fighting just for me or my grandfather's memory. I'm fighting for every farm, every family, every neighbor who depends on this water. But the other side, they're not letting up. That same day, Bella Wilson calls. She's an environmental lawyer, sharp as a tack, known for taking down big companies in court. She's got a team of researchers and a few wins against Aqua Corp under her belt. Their whole strategy is to outspend and outweight you, she says. But the law is on our side if we can prove the environmental damage. Bella starts lining up other families who've lost land, builds a coalition, digs through every scrap of paper Pete Johnson can find. Patterns emerge everywhere. Donna Carter's HOA moves and families are squeezed. Land is lost and water rights quietly transfer to shell companies. It's a con plain as day. Meanwhile, the pressure campaign ramps up. Someone slashes my truck tires online. Trolls start leaving fake reviews, trashing my consulting business neighbors, get threatening letters warning them not to associate with me. Every permit for minor repairs on my house mysteriously disappears at City Hall. Even my 60-year-old dock, untouched for decades, suddenly gets flagged for environmental hazards. They're throwing everything they've got at me. But Bella's team is fast. She files for injunctions, brings in state and federal investigators, starts building a mountain of evidence. Jake Mitchell keeps publishing exposés, turning public opinion fast. Dr. Foster's reports go viral online, stirring up environmental groups and local activists. Pretty soon, I'm not alone in this anymore. The fight for my lake has become a fight for everyone's water. Then just when I think things can't get more personal, my brother Tom calls me late one night. His voice is rough, like he's carrying a weight. Blake, I need to tell you something. Donna Carter came to me months ago. She said she'd pay off my medical bills if I convinced you to sell. My heart stops. Betrayal stings, but the truth is worse. She'd been targeting our family from the start, using every weakness she could find. But even that's not enough to shake my resolve. If anything, it steels me. I go down to the lake that night, let the water run over my hands, promise myself and my grandfather's ghost that I'm seeing this fight through no matter what it takes. The next morning, Bella shows up with 3 boxes of legal files. We have enough for federal court, she tells me, eyes gleaming. You ready? Ready. I was born ready. You know, there's something about the smell of coffee and legal paperwork that really brings people together, especially when your whole community is facing a fight they never saw coming. That first Saturday, Bella and I set up in the library's back room. 47 people showed up, even though the sign just said Water Rights Info Session. Some folks came out of curiosity, some came out of fear, and a few, like Diana Phillips, came because they'd already lost too much to keep quiet. I walked everyone through it. No lectures, no jargon, just the plain facts. Explained how aquifers work, what a recharge zone is, why pulling water here could drain wells miles away. I pointed at my hand-drawn map, tracing how the underground flow stretched from my hills into their kitchen sinks, their barns, their orchards. You pull too hard here, I said, and first go the shallow wells, then the wetlands, then the fields. When it's gone for good. For a minute, nobody said a word. You could feel the fear in the room, the kind that crawls up the back of your neck when you realize your home, your family, your future is on the line. Diana got up, her hands shaking, and showed everyone the numbers. Property values, tanked insurance costs, skyrocketed land that was once prime, turned into dust. They promised us jobs and safety, she said. But the work dries up as soon as the water does, and what's left is worth nothing. Rachel Foster's part hit hardest. She had slides, photos, before and afters, lush wetlands turned brown and cracked lakes shrunk to muddy pits. Birds and deer vanished. Farmers bankrupted. Industrial water extraction, she told everyone, is just mining by another name. It strips the land, leaves nothing but loss behind. You could hear a pin drop. It didn't take long for the energy in that room to flip, fear turning to anger, folks leaning in, asking questions, volunteering to help. That's how the coalition started. Farmers, retirees, teachers, even a few city council members. Everyone had skin in this game now. Diana began collecting signatures for a petition. The high school kids designed flyers. Rachel and her grad students set up a little lab in my barn to monitor water samples. Even Mrs. Patterson, whose call started this whole mess, showed up with cookies and awkward apologies. I really didn't know, she said, her eyes wet. They made it sound so official. And it wasn't just our little patch of ground. The word spread, neighboring towns started showing up too. By the second meeting, we had folks from 15 miles away. Some came out of curiosity, but most came scared. Nobody wanted to be the next family squeezed out by legal threats and fake fines. Of course, the company didn't sit still. Within days, the airwaves were thick with their ads. Soft piano music, images of smiling families, talk of infrastructure and water security, never once mentioning how much water they'd take or what happened when it ran out. Local papers ran op-eds about progress and jobs ghost-written by PR firms. On talk radio, Donna Carter was suddenly a champion for regional drought relief. But none of that held up when people started asking questions. Every time Donna got on TV, she repeated the same corporate talking points, never answering what happened when the wells ran dry. Jake Mitchell's stories kept dropping, digging into the money, the shell companies, Donna's secret contracts. The mood turned first a trickle, then a flood. Then the feds got involved. Rachel's research caught the attention of the EPA and the state's Environmental Protection Agency. Suddenly, it wasn't just about permits or property lines, it was about federal law, endangered species, the Clean Water Act. That's when things really started to shift. The company sent in their biggest lawyers, 12 of them all in matching suits, each carrying a briefcase that looked expensive enough to pay off a mortgage. Bella Wilson just smiled and rolled in her own cart. 3 boxes stuffed with environmental impact statements, geological surveys, and binders full of federal statutes. They can't buy the law, she said, winking at me. They can try, but we've got the science, and now we've got the community too. The day we walked up the courthouse steps for the first hearing, it felt like half the county was behind us. Farmers, families, school kids with handmade signs. Even old Pete Johnson from the records office looking proud as a grandfather at graduation. Judge Ellie Morrison presided, known for her hard questions and her no-nonsense attitude, no relation to the Carters, thank God. She cut straight to the science, wanting to know exactly what would happen if extraction went ahead. Bella opened with a laser pointer, and my survey maps projected big on the courtroom wall. She traced the water flows, explained the recharge zone, then let Rachel break down what happened at every other extraction site AquaCorp had ever touched. Wells dropped land, dried up lawsuits started, and the company dissolved before anyone could be held accountable. The company's lawyers tried every trick in the book. Emergency water access promises of economic development, even claims that private citizens like me were hoarding resources. Judge Morrison shut them down one by one. Can you restore the aquifer after depletion, she asked. The lead attorney stammered, admitted they couldn't. Do you have a plan to replace lost wetlands? Silence. Rachel took the stand and dropped the hammer. Her peer-reviewed studies left no doubt everywhere extraction went, the land and its people suffered. I spoke next, not as some hero, just as a guy with a long memory and a stubborn streak. Held up my grandfather's compass for the judge to see, the same one he'd used to draw our boundaries 70 years ago. This land was never just about ownership, I told her. It's about stewardship, about leaving something better for those who come next. Donna Carter tried to talk her way through it, but her ignorance was on full display. She mixed up groundwater and surface water, talked about community arrangements that had never existed, failed every technical question thrown at her. Pete Johnson testified to Donna's long history of clarifying boundaries, always for families with water, always ending in a quiet transfer to someone else. Jake Mitchell walked through the money bank transfers, contracts, royalties promised for every gallon extracted. The judge listened. And when she finally ruled, it was more than we'd hoped for. Immediate injunction against any corporate extraction based on overwhelming environmental risk. But that wasn't all. She ordered a criminal referral for federal fraud based on the evidence of shell companies' forged documents and intimidation tactics. You could feel the relief in the room, see it on faces that had been tight with worry for months. Outside, the community erupted. Neighbors hugged kids, waved their signs. Even old Mrs. Patterson cheered. For one night at least, it felt like justice had actually come to our corner of the world. But the fight wasn't over. The company would appeal, of course. There were rumors of new shell companies forming new infrastructure bills winding their way through the State House. Bella warned us victory just means they change tactics. Stay sharp. That night I sat by the lake again, same fire, same compass stars glinting on the water. For the first time in months, I let myself hope this place might actually stay safe for my neighbors, for the birds, for the kids playing by the shore. I knew we'd only won the first battle in a much longer war. But for now, the water was still flowing, the land still alive, and the future still ours to protect. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when it's about a win against a company nobody thought could ever be stopped. Within hours of Judge Morrison's ruling, the local news was flooded with stories about our fight, and by the next day, even national environmental groups were celebrating. AquaCorp's stock price nosedived. Turns out nobody wants to invest in a company getting hammered by federal court orders and fraud investigations. But you want to know who wasn't celebrating Donna Carter? You could see it in her eyes the last time she showed up to a community meeting. No more smug smiles, no more carefully rehearsed speeches about community progress. She sat in the back, shoulders slumped, lawyers on either side, waiting for her world to come crashing down. All those years of scheming, the secret payments, the phone calls to my brother, and the other families gone just like that. Her family's 70-year grudge had turned into a personal nightmare, and no company was coming to bail her out now. Community spirit, though, that was something else. The next evening, we held a gathering at the lake, not a protest, not a strategy meeting, just a good old-fashioned cookout. Folks brought casseroles. Kids chased each other through the grass, and more than a few people wandered over to the dock just to see if it was really true, if the lake was safe, if we'd really won. For the first time in months, people smiled when they talked about the future. Even the air felt lighter. That's when Diana Phillips announced her candidacy for HOA president. Yeah, the same HOA that Donna had used to push everyone around. We need transparency, and we need someone who actually lives here and cares about the land, Diana said, her voice ringing out across the water. People cheered. Nobody argued. A few days later, the federal investigators started showing up. Jake Mitchell's articles had uncovered so much dirt, the authorities couldn't ignore it. Turns out the same tricks Donna pulled here had played out all across the drought-stricken Southwest shell companies, fake consulting reports, intimidation, all tied to a handful of extraction companies. Congressional reps called for a halt on industrial water extraction until communities could have a real say. State legislators started introducing bills that would make what happened here almost impossible to pull off again. But Donna Carter, still hoping for a last-minute save, called one more emergency HOA meeting. She tried to rally folks around the idea of water security even after everything we'd uncovered. But the community center was packed with angry residents, not supporters. People weren't buying it anymore. She started with a speech talked about infrastructure delays, unprecedented drought, and tough decisions. It was like she couldn't hear the crowd at all. That's when Mrs. Patterson, remember her, stood up, voice trembling but clear. Donna, did you know the lake wasn't legally ours? Did you lie to us about owning Blake Gibson's water? The room went quiet as a tomb. Diana, not missing a beat, fired up the projector and threw Donna's bank statements on the big screen, every dollar traced back to AquaCorp, every payment and memo laid out for all to see. You've been stealing our money while planning to steal our water, she said. People gasped, and the spell broke for good. Donna lost it, yelling, blaming everyone but herself, screaming about how she built this community, how without her, there'd be nothing but empty farmland. All the bitterness, all the entitlement, all the old family grudges poured out in front of the cameras. The news caught every second. The vote was fast and unanimous. Ballots dropped into the box, counted in front of everyone. New leadership, new rules, new direction. Donna was out, and so was every last trace of her community management. She left the building surrounded by cameras, her lawyers hustling her to a car, while the crowd in the parking lot cheered not out of cruelty, but out of relief. The last obstacle was gone. Meanwhile, Bella's legal filings had spread. Similar cases started popping up statewide, families using federal environmental law to push back against extraction companies. Environmental groups reached out, asking for our playbook, our data, our story. Even buyers started showing up hoping to buy property near our lake. Turns out water security makes for high property values once the threat is gone. My brother Tom, humbled and a little ashamed, finally came around. I didn't get it before he admitted standing by the water's edge. I almost helped her destroy everything Grandpa built just for a payday. I'm sorry, Blake. We hugged it out. That's what family does. We forgive. We move on. We protect what matters. Rachel Foster and her team didn't just move on, they set up a permanent research station on my land. School kids started coming by to learn about aquifers, groundwater ecosystem stuff nobody bothered to teach back when I was in school. Pete Johnson, before he retired, digitized every water rights file in the county, making sure no one could ever bury the truth in paperwork again. And then there was Mrs. Patterson now, our volunteer coordinator for environmental education. Always the first to set up chairs, pass out cookies, tell newcomers about that night with the campfire. She owned her mistake and she worked hard to make it right. I respected her for that. Every month we held a water appreciation night. Families gathering by the lake, testing the water, talking about what it meant to live in a place where you fought for your future instead of just waiting for it to be decided by someone else. One night, 8-year-old Emma Freckles, bright in the firelight, asked me the question I knew would come sooner or later. Mr. Gibson, why did that lady try to steal your lake? I squatted down, tossed another log on the fire, and tried to explain in a way that made sense to a kid. Sometimes, Emma, people get so caught up in wanting more money, power, whatever, they forget what's right. But a community that stands together, that's something no amount of money can buy or bully away. She nodded, solemn as a judge. Kids understand more than we think. My grandfather's compass still sat in my hand, pointing north, its brass surface warm from the fire. I thought about him a lot those days, how he'd built this place from nothing, how he'd trusted the land, the water, the people, how he'd warned in his own quiet way that some things are worth more than gold. Turns out he was right. The victory was bigger than just saving a lake. State laws changed, requiring community approval for any extraction. Federal investigators shut down AquaCorp's operations across 6 states. Bella Wilson went on to win awards, represent dozens of other families. Jake Mitchell's reporting brought down more than one crooked company, inspired others to stand up for what's theirs. And me, I just kept tending my lake, teaching kids, fixing docks, sitting by the water at dusk with the old compass in my hand. Sometimes when the frogs sing and the stars come out, it almost feels like nothing ever changed, like I'm back in 1952 beside my grandfather learning how to watch the land. But I know better. This land is still here because we fought for it, because we refused to let fear or greed write the ending to our story. 6 months after that wild court showdown, life found a new kind of rhythm around here. You wouldn't believe it if you drove past. Looks like the same quiet lake, the same old trees, the same 2-story house that's been leaning into the wind since Eisenhower was president. But something fundamental shifted, like the ground under our feet got a little firmer, the air a little sweeter, the people a little more sure of what matters. Every so often, I'd sit by the same fire pit where all the trouble started, the compass warm in my palm, just listening to the frogs and the wind and the quiet hush of water lapping against the shore. If I closed my eyes, I could almost hear my grandfather's voice, low, steady, always reminding me, "Son, you're not just guarding a lake. You're guarding a future. Yeah, I get that now. The land became something more than just private property. After the federal protections kicked in, this place was recognized as a sanctuary for the aquifer that feeds 3 whole counties. The company, they got run out of 6 states, prosecuted for environmental fraud, and their board meetings became the stuff of nightmares for anyone who thought you could get away with treating people like obstacles instead of neighbors. And Donna, she took a plea deal, served a short federal term, lost everything she'd spent a lifetime trying to prove she deserved. It's a strange thing seeing a person unravel under the weight of their own ambition. Her last act as a free woman was to sign over her personal holdings to cover part of the fines. I heard through the grapevine she's living with a distant cousin out of state, no longer queen of anything. There's a lesson there, I guess maybe something about pride and falling, or maybe just that karma finds its way one way or another. The real story, though, wasn't about her or me or even the company. It was about what happens when a community wakes up and decides to stop waiting for someone else to fight their battles. You should have seen the next HOA election families lined up out the door, voting for people like Diana Phillips, who'd lost so much to Donna's schemes, or Mrs. Patterson, who turned her biggest mistake into a lifetime of service. Transparency, accountability, words that used to just sound good in newsletters actually meant something now. Dr. Rachel Foster's research team stayed on, turning my barn into a field station where local school kids learned about aquifers, water quality, and why you never, ever take a clear lake for granted. Pete Johnson, before he finally hung up his county badge for good, handed me a USB drive with 70 years of digitized water rights files, so nobody can hide the truth in a dusty basement ever again, he said, eyes shining. Jake Mitchell, he won a National Journalism Award for his work, and he deserved it. His articles didn't just expose a company, they showed people all over the country how to push back, how to use the law and the truth and their own stubborn sense of justice to win, even when the odds looked impossible. Bella Wilson, with her rolling suitcase and her smile sharp as barbed wire, became the lawyer every threatened family called first. She never stopped reminding us this isn't just about one lake, it's about drawing a line nobody crosses again. The town changed too. Our property values didn't fall, they actually went up. Turns out people want to live where their water's safe. Farmers felt the difference during the next drought. Their wells held steady, their fields stayed green, and for the first time in a long time, nobody lost a crop to corporate greed. And it wasn't just grown-ups. Those monthly lake nights became a ritual, kids running tests on the water, learning how to spot healthy frogs, watching osprey nests from the new dock, counting dragonflies at sunset. Mrs. Patterson was always there, clipboard in hand, passing out homemade cookies and corralling every runaway little one with a smile. She told her story every time, honestly, never hiding how she'd been fooled or how she'd helped turn things around. One night, little Emma, bright-eyed, curious, always asking questions, pulled me aside and asked again, "Why'd that lady want to steal your lake?" I knelt beside her, showed her the compass, let her feel the weight of it. The years pressed into the metal. Some folks, I told her, forget that what's good for everyone is better than what's good for just one. But when people work together, when they refuse to back down, when they protect each other and the things that matter, there's nothing anyone can take away. She nodded, all solemn, her hand in mine, and I swear in that moment it felt like the whole point of the fight had been just to make sure kids like her never had to wonder if their water or their home could just disappear for someone else's profit. You want to know how it ended? Truth is, it never really does not, for good. There are always new threats, new developers, new opportunities, dressed up as progress. But now, when someone comes sniffing around, they find a town that's ready, a community that knows how to organize, how to call Bella, how to get the word to Jake, how to meet in the library and stand together, even if the only thing they have in common is a love for the land. The water stayed clean, the aquifer stayed strong, The birds came back ospreys, herons, even the otters that used to vanish whenever construction trucks showed up. The old dock got rebuilt by neighbors, not contractors with handprints from every kid in town pressed into the fresh concrete. Sometimes I walk the boundary at dusk compass in my pocket, and I remember that first night by the fire, the shouting, the fear, the sense that something big was coming for us and we weren't ready. I look around now and see a place that's stronger, more generous, more awake. It's not perfect, but it's ours, and it's worth fighting for. So, yeah, the title of this whole saga is still simple. HOA called cops because I lit a campfire by my lake. Only it was never really about the campfire. It was about the right to protect what matters, about knowing when to draw your line and hold it no matter who tries to push you off it. You know what I mean? Sometimes all it takes to win is one stubborn old compass, a community that refuses to let go, and the will to say loud and clear, this land, this water, this future, it's not for sale. And that's how we kept it.